Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Sunday night. It is the Earthmaster back here on the live stream about 6:31 p.m. California time. December 8th, 2024 is the date. Just getting back from the Petrolia area here in Northern California. I took a trip over there today to see if I could see any damage and investigate the 7.0 earthquake that struck out there in Northern California a couple days back. I'll tell you guys about that here at the end of this update video. Right now, we got a lot going on here across the Aleutian Trench of Alaska. A lot of shallow activity here along this major subduction zone. So let's go ahead and take a look, see what's popping out here, or maybe about ready to pop. We've seen several large earthquakes out here in the area of the Adak area of Alaska, right along the Aleutian Trench here. The latest earthquake, a 4.2, within the same region. Now, if we look here in the last 24 hours, most of this activity actually began to stir up here about 11:57 a.m. Today. So this is fairly new activity, not from yesterday, but from today. Started off with a 6.3, and from there, numerous aftershocks coming in, but then another 6.3 came in, followed up by even more larger aftershocks, and then another 6-pointer came in. So it looks like we've got, a serious earthquake swarm on a large scale out here across the area, with potentially no main quake yet. I know we can call these two right here maybe some main quakes, but this is kind of reminding me of other earthquake swarms that I've seen there in the past. That had a series of large events such as this, and then in a day or two later we've seen a mega quake. I'm kind of comparing this a little bit to the Japan earthquake activity back in 2011. So it's a little on the hot side out there across the Aleutian Trench right now, and it appears as though this earthquake there across the Kuril Islands may have added the strain out here. Now, when you make adjustment here across this area of the plate boundary, right, this is a deeper zone. It looks like something just triggered enough strain out here across this area to get this earthquake swarming going on there across the Aleutian Trench near the Hockley Ridge. Now, again, this is very shallow earthquake activity, indicative of the major strain out there, specifically in this region. Again, it started off with a 6.3 and a couple other 6s since. So let's go ahead and take a look here at historical data, see what we've had here in terms of larger scale activity historically. Let's go over here to 6.0 and above across the Aleutian Trench here. Just this little area. I'm not going to do the entirety of the subduction zone, but I am going to draw just a little area up here around the Adak region. Let's make sure I got the right area here. So it looks like it's going to be roughly within that zone right here. Not too far east, not too far west. That should cover it. Looks like it's just going to be right around here, but I want to make sure I cover a little section here. We can even extend a little bit more this way. So let's see what we've had here in terms of larger scale activity, and that's actually quite a bit. So there's our 6-pointers here today, 3 of them. Looks like back in July there was some 6.0 activity further east here. Another 6-pointer in that same area east, 2023, near today's events. What's a little concerning, though, is just a multitude of large earthquakes in a short amount of time here. Potentially could be looking at something bigger popping out here. The Aleutian Trench is no stranger to large earthquakes, including 9 magnitude earthquake range. Let's see what we got specifically here across this area. I want to go with the largest magnitude, 8.7. Here back in 1965, 8.6 back in 1957, roughly around the same area, within about 60 miles or so of today's events. 8.3 back in 1906, much further here to the west. 8-pointer 1986, a little bit further to the east here along that subduction zone. 7.9 7.9. It's fairly close here to today's events back in 1996. So, what's this one right here? 7.0, 1910. You know, it's very possible we could see a potential larger quake activity event out here, folks. This is something that's developing, and it kicked off just before noon local time, California time, and it's been ramping up out here. I think this last 6-pointer came in as a 6.4. Looks like that got downgraded. Let me check and see if we have any of the origins out here in terms of the magnitude level. They went with a 0.03 error rate, which is good, but I can't access the source there for some reason. So something similar would probably be this one, right? 0.02. That would be even a less of an error rate. So let's see what these guys are reporting there. Lots of 6s, some upper 6s there I see as well. A lot of 5s in there. So these are just multitude numbers right here on the chart that was registered on a nearby seismograph station. These are the automatic potential magnitudes from that earthquake. And yeah, it does look like it's going to average out potentially around that 6.1 magnitude level. But for some reason, it came in as a 6.4. So that area is definitely going to need to be watched here. Following some of this event, some of these larger quakes today, we've seen somewhat of a more uptick here across the Cascadia subduction zone again. Out here around the Blanco fracture zone, a pair of earthquakes out here. 3.2 and a 3.9 from early this morning. Actually, this activity stirred up before the Aleutian Trench activity. I know we did have a 3-pointer here during the mix of all those 6s up there across the Aleutian Trench here across the Petrolia area. Hard to say if that's going to be related to the movement out there, but we are getting still seeing some aftershock activity out there. Let me check the live seismos here. It looks a little bit calmer here on the Petrolia station. Not a whole lot of spiky activity. I was just there today at Petrolia. Very small, unincorporated area. A community. It's got a little store, a fire department, and I think the post office is attached right there to the general store. Super nice ladies in there. I went in, bought half a gallon of milk and some raspberry donuts. The lady in there, I talked to her a little bit about the earthquake activity there, the 7-pointer, just off the Northern California coast here a couple days, and she said minimal damage. And Petrolia is actually closer to the epicenter of that 7-pointer than, say, for example, the Eureka area. Petrolia sits down here much closer to the Triple Point Junction here. And she mentioned that a couple bottles fell off. I think it was some wine bottles that fell off and broke, but that was about it. I looked around the entire area out there. I could not see any damage. Some rock falls, but it's hard to say on if this is related to the earthquake activity recently or a lot of rainfall that they've received here from the atmospheric river event a couple weeks ago. But no service, absolutely no service out there, folks. I was highly disappointed because I wanted to live stream from this area and show you guys the town. So I took some pictures, took some video. I'll post that up here on the channel a little bit later. I just got back home from the trip. It's about a 5-hour drive. We left this morning. Spent some time out there around Dinsmore as well. I seen the little town of Dinsmore, right where that seismograph station is. So there is some distance between Dinsmore and Petrolia. Petrolia is a closer station here to all this earthquake activity. There's a little spike coming in right now near Petrolia. Did not feel any earthquakes through the day today, but a little exhausted there. I definitely wanted to do some touring out there in terms of showing you guys the area, but no service at all. Nothing, nowhere for many miles out there. The Petrolia area is off the beaten path, and it's along the Lost Coast area. Absolutely beautiful. Very minimal intrusion there along the coastline. A couple different farmhouses out there, but it's absolutely untouched. in terms of, everything with the development and whatnot around bigger cities. So it's beautiful. Definitely, I've never been down there, so now I can finally say I have. But I'll share some pictures and videos here a little bit later once I get everything taken care of here. So I'm also going to add I need to get an Alaska station up here. I don't have any seismograph stations here across that area. I'm going to have to add one, and I'll do that after this update video, because it looks like things are about ready to rock and roll here. I mean, there's really been no main event. A 6.3 started off this swarm of activity, and there's been a number of 6s included in that mix. So hard to say. We could be looking at some 7s, could be looking at maybe this is where our 8-pointer is going to be. We're well overdue. Well, somewhat overdue for an 8-pointer out here across the globe. And I say that because we're supposed to see an 8.0 magnitude earthquake once a year. If not once a year, then it goes to about every other year. And our last 8-pointer anywhere out here on the planet was back in 2021. So here it is, almost 2025. Yeah, we definitely should be seeing an 8-pointer out here. That may be the location. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Further down across the Bay Area, minimal movement. Not seeing anything major going on there across the area. A couple smaller quakes along the creeping section here of the San Andreas Fault. With a 3-pointer and a 2.5. Nothing big. No major swarming going on there across Southern California for now. Some noticeable uptick here, it looks like, around the Los Angeles area outside of Malibu at 1.2. Couple other earthquakes there across the greater Los Angeles area, but those are generally small, very small microquake events from today. Nothing major going on across the Intermountain West area. Let's go check out Yellowstone National Park here real quick. I bet you those 6-pointers showed up. There they are. And let's see here. What do we got? How many do we have here? There's the 6-pointers here. 1, 2, 3. I'm guessing that's going to be one of the 5-pointers in between the mixes here. These are distant earthquakes that were recorded here on the seismograph stations there across northwestern Wyoming. But it just goes to show you how sensitive this equipment is, and it picks up these large events even though they're thousands of miles away. So that's good to see that it is picking it up. So it almost looks like there was 4 6-pointers out here. But these guys are only showing 3. And maybe a near 6-pointer here with that 5.8. So something to watch for sure. That's definitely got my interest there. I was trying to hurry up and get home before something did pop out here so I can cover this. Some 2s and 3s out there in the oil fields of Texas. Nothing going on out there across the eastern portion of the country. A little bit of further adjustment here across the East Pacific Rise. Actually got a little bit of swarming going on out here in the last 24 hours. Actually from today. About kicked off about 8 o'clock this morning. A series of 5.0 earthquakes out here. So some major adjustment up north along the plate boundary. Some divergent boundary activity out here. This is a fracture zone, basically separation of the seafloor, so to speak. I'm wondering if that's including the strain up here across the northern area of the Pacific Plate. Got to remember, this is a seafloor rift zone, so to speak, and a number of fracture zones out here. And this is creating new oceanic crust. So when it does so, the pressure and strain's got to go somewhere out here. Most of the time, we notice elevated activity here across the Peru-Chile Trench when we see this movement. But that doesn't look to be the case right now. Fairly quiet there across the South America area. So it looks like, it still looks like things are, almost looks like California may want to move a little bit more. Got a blockage going on here in terms of the Japan area. Not seeing a whole lot of larger activity here around Japan. That deeper activity here across the Kuril-Kamchatka, that is still just leading me to believe here that the strain upstream is potentially ready for a megaquake as well. I mean, there's a number of subduction zones out here that are have been quiet for a little while. deeper activity, obviously, there across that trench zone, adding further strain upstream. I feel like we should see something else out here, either across Japan or maybe across California here again. All right, let's go ahead and check out the rest of the globe. Aside from this major activity up north, around New Zealand, a couple earthquakes there across the plate boundary. Some force stirring up there north and south of the area. 3.2 across South Island. Nothing major across the area of Solomon Islands or Papua New Guinea. And the typical crunch zone out here, just seeing a handful of earthquakes out there. Really nothing major for now. Older activity here across the Nepal region, Himalayas. And let's see. Got some threes and whatnot. A little bit more activity up north here. Some twos and threes up in this area outside of Italy, it looks like. There's that older activity there in Iceland. That should be about ready to drop off the map, though. Pretty old earthquake up there from yesterday. The rest of the Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. We'll definitely watch this area. Number of areas out here across the Aleutian Trench, the Kamchatka. And again, I still feel like California is on the go here, maybe for some further activity out here somewhere. Still a lot of movement out there across the Blanco fracture zone. Let's go check out the tremor map here and see what we have for Cascadia tremor, which consists, again, of 196 epicenters there on the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone, right there in Northern California. So looks like, I still think things are maybe looking at something larger out here across the southern end of the Cascadia. It's been amplified like that over the last couple days. Here's the last week of activity. Pull this up here. We got 1,144 epicenters in the last week, mainly across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. And we've seen a lot of activity back there. That 7-pointer obviously was not on the Cascadia, but it does look like there's been, some deeper movement quakes here into the Cascadia megathrust area. A look at the last 7 days of earthquake activity shows about 318 earthquakes in total here since that 7-pointer, with migration northward. Look at these earthquakes up here, right into the southern end of the Cascadia megathrust area. So we got a lot of tremor occurring down dip here underneath this area, adding to the further strain back upstream here. So just keep an eye on it. I don't think that's over yet. Let's check out space weather. We did have an X-flare earlier this morning, pretty decent size X-flare. It was directed away from Earth here, X 2.29 to be exact. Now that came off of a sunspot there on the western limb. There's that CME that was produced, pretty decent. And headed to the west and does not appear to contain an Earth-directed component. I mean, that's obviously way out there on the western limb. I don't see that having an effect on Earth at all. So, and he just verifies it right here across the solarham.com site. There's some of the coronal hole solar wind stream activity I've been talking about here over the last couple updates. It looks like it has arrived here on the planet. Getting a little bit of enhancement here across the higher latitudes for the auroras tonight. Nothing big, but could see that off and on here over the next couple nights, as we've had a number here of coronal holes that were facing the Earth. Nothing major in terms of the auroras, though, for the forecast, but again, unsettled conditions here will remain for the next couple nights. Storm Prediction Center, any major severe weather? Well, marginal risk it looks like here around day 3 across portions of the south, but we'll check back on that when we get a little bit closer to that time period. We'll look at the numerical models here in terms of the weather. Well, going to get a lot of rain out there across portions of the east as we head into early and mid-week. Quite a bit of rainfall out there across the eastern seaboard. Some snow back behind that lower, this frontal boundary here. West Coast, California, yeah, hopefully that rings true. Maybe some precipitation returning to my neck of the woods with some snow in the mountains. Maybe another storm system behind that. And yeah, looks like I'm hoping we'll finish off December here with some decent precipitation here in the valley and some snow up in the mountains. We definitely need it for December. Another massive storm system out here across the Great Lakes. That seems to be the trend out here recently. We'll see how much this rings true as we get closer to the December 24th time period. That's a ways out. That's Christmas Eve there. That could spell some havoc there for holiday travels. All right, folks, seismograph stations, aside from that little earthquake there in Petrolia, look pretty quiet. I don't think they're going to report that little microquake. Let me go over here and see if they did. That may be this earthquake right here, a little 1.5 outside of Willits. Let's see, at 1758. No, that's almost an hour ago. So that there's no way that can be that earthquake because this is just from just about 15 minutes ago. So it doesn't look like they've reported that little microquake, but that's okay. We'll continue to keep an eye on the activity here and provide updates if anything changes out here. Right now, keep a sharp eye on the Alaska area, the Aleutian Trench, Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, Northern California region. Still quite active out here across the northern half of the Pacific Plate. Watch for some pictures and videos a little bit later, folks, once I get everything gathered together. Like I said, I just got home, just jumped here on the stream. I'm going to take a shower and get something to eat, and then I'll post some of that stuff here a little bit later. So have yourself a good night. And, of course, we'll see you guys back out here in the morning for the Monday morning update.